day of hectic developments, 150 hostages to be rescued, exchange for 50 Israelis.
Well, Sandeep, the 4-day ceasefire has already begun, 10:30 a.m. India time that began. And that means that all kinds of airstrikes, aerial activity, as well as ground attacks have in fact paused. And this will continue till about 10:30 a.m. Monday morning. During this period, 50 of the Israeli hostages will be released in a step-by-step manner. And 150 Palestinian women and children will also be released by Israel. There's an Egyptian security team that has landed in Israel to take over, in fact, handover exercise from Israel to Egypt, the Palestinians. At the same time, we have to also keep in mind that there's a separate negotiation that is happening. This negotiation was between Israel, Hamas, and mediators were US, Qatar, and Egypt. There's a separate negotiation that was happening between Thailand and Iran, in which 23 Thai nationals are also being released somewhere today. Some say they've already been released, but we are yet to, in fact, hear an official statement. So over the next 4 days, we won't see any kind of war activity, and this happens after 47 long days. But Israel says that the war will continue till Hamas is completely destroyed and annihilated from Gaza. There'll be a full occupation of the Gaza territory until there is somebody else from Palestine that is given the governance. And at the same time, Israel says that we will go after the commanders, leaders, and terrorists of Hamas anywhere in the world.
So Aditya, you spoke with the Israeli ambassador to India, and you got a sense of Israeli policy. Was there anything that he told you that was, surprising, or it kind of came as a shock to you?
Firstly, it comes as a surprise that Israel will, in fact, go in for a ceasefire or kind of a 4-day halt,
right?
Because this isn't something that Israel usually does. Right. From Israel's policy, from Israel's past experiences, they would have almost forgotten, the hostages and gone ahead with the war.
Right.
It seems that the Prime Minister of Israel is under tremendous pressure, and over national security, over the national pride, he has chosen his own political career, and that's why perhaps he is going in for the hostage, rescue. Right. Because he's under tremendous pressure domestically and internationally for a humanitarian pause. But the Israeli ambassador was, very clear that this is a ceasefire that we haven't chosen. This is a ceasefire that has been given to us. Hamas has dictated the terms, and we have tried our best to secure a ceasefire that helps Israel and helps the secure release of the hostages. At the same time, he stressed the fact that this is a time of reflection for Israel as well, because till now, till 6th October this year, Israel chose to give, in fact, peace a chance. And in fact, they thought that Hamas will reform itself. But after 7th October, the new reality has completely changed. Israel is not going to, in fact, look the other way until the destruction of Hamas completely, and will target their commanders and leaders, not just in Gaza, but in beyond the territory. So Israel is very much clear that this is a very brief pause. I'm not sure what happens after these 4 days, but there is a policy that has been agreed upon that for every 10 more hostages that will be released, there will be another day of ceasefire.
Another day of ceasefire. In fact, let's look at your interview with the ambassador. Now get on.
What is the future of the Hamas terror group right now? And after the ceasefire really ends, how are you going to continue this war? Because already when the war cabinet was announced and there was a meeting, there was apparently a heated argument. And in fact, even the national security minister seems to say that if the war doesn't continue, I have nothing to do with the government. So what is the future of this war?
As I said before, we have to eliminate Hamas's leadership over or ruling over Gaza. We have to liberate Gaza from them. This is the only way for us to survive. So I think there is consensus in Israel. Also, if you saw the war cabinet, which includes also Gantz from the opposition who joined just now for the war, they all say very clearly, we are going to continue. There is no way anyone is going to stop us. The hope is to stop us, but we cannot stop, because if we stop, we are going to live in risk to the rest of our lives. And Hezbollah in the north that are operated by Iran, everyone is operated by Iran. I think this is also an important point to say. when you look at what's happening, Iran is the head of the snake. Iran has in the Middle East, in West Asia, they has 4 armed wings that they are training, financing and equipping. And the 4 are, I'll start with Hezbollah, the closest in the north. Hezbollah are Shiites, and Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, announced himself or presented himself as the soldier in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. So this is Shiites, flesh and blood of Iran, probably the closest to Iran. The second one is Hamas, who are Sunnis, a different group, but they have a joint target, elimination of Israel. So Hamas has no other target. It's not about a 2-state solution or anything. From the river to the sea, elimination of Israel, this is exactly Hamas. And then you have the Houthis in Yemen, who are also Shiites, strongly connected to Iran. And you have the militias, the Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria. It's the same groups. And all 4 of them are trying to engage Israel in different levels, different ways. So you understand they're all connected to Iran. You see the Iranian foreign minister immediately, the first week after October 7th, already went to Lebanon, met the heads of all the terror organizations there, and are continuing and are speaking, and also in the BRICS and every place in the UN, wherever they are, the Iranians there are leading the camp. And one has to understand also the problem. And if you try to understand why all of it is happening, part of the explanation for sure is the change in the last 3 years in West Asia. So from the Abraham Accords, from the time that the UAE and Bahrain and then Morocco joined, and now we were speaking and will hopefully also speak in the future to Saudi Arabia, there is like a new group of countries who are trying to improve the region, to make the lives of people better, to the I2U2 economic projects that are coming out of it, India, Israel, US, UAE, and now India presented in G20, the IMEC, the corridor, that sea and land corridor that will be from India to the Mediterranean through UAE or the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel. So all of that, I think they wanted also to disrupt that, because they don't like when the moderate powers in the world unite to improve their lives. They want their own way of living. So it's a big challenge that we have here, but we are going to prevail. The only thing that we are asking the world, don't disturb us. Don't go for the fake news. There is suffering. There is always suffering in war. There is suffering on both sides in the war. But this is something that has to be done. We have to eradicate ISIS, Hamas. No one told the Americans or the international coalition, don't eradicate ISIS in Iraq and Syria. So, it has to be done for the benefit, for the well-being of the future of all of us.
So Ambassador Gilon there putting down the Israeli approach, buying time, looking for a small window in which hostages can be traded. But of course, the larger goal of eliminating Hamas is on the anvil, and it seems there's no going back from that. Colonel Sen, I want to bring you in on this stage. The fact that, do you see a lot of parallels? You were in 26/11, you were handling the rescue at the Nariman House, the Chabad House. You see a lot of parallels between what is happening then and what's playing out on the ground now. There were hostage negotiations at the Nariman House while you were around the building.
First of all, thank you for having me. See, there is no similarity between 26/11 attack and this Hamas, the way Hamas has attacked Israel. These are two entirely different operations. The 26/11 operation was very, very limited. Only 10 terrorists came to Mumbai, and they came there not to have hostages. Unlike Israel, Hamas, the way they have taken hostages with them, they had no intention, the Pakistani terrorists, to have hostages in India. They wanted to create maximum killing.
Yes.
It was a pure terror attack, to terrorize the country. Only similarity between these two attacks are the surprise element. The way we got surprised and the way Israelis were surprised. Other than that, there is no similarity.
So this would be like a conventional war, more or less, what Hamas has unleashed on Israel.
It is a conventional war. It's an entire Israeli army is inside Gaza now. They have already, the tanks have reached, city center. And they are inside the tunnel. Otherwise, initially the reports were there that they will not enter tunnel. So now I feel Israelis are well under control.
Right.
They have total control over Gaza Strip,
Yes.
and that's why they are going for the negotiation part and getting the hostages released.
Right. Right.
So both ways they are winning. I
Yeah.
believe.
Do you
This is-
believe that, Aditya? Do you think the Israelis are winning at the moment as we speak? Are they speaking from a position of strength?
From the day one, it was clear that Israel is much more powerful. Israel has much more arsenal,
Yeah.
ammunition in their kitty, and much more experience and technological prowess at the same time. So it's clear that every passing day, Hamas is losing its strength in Gaza.
Yeah.
Of course, one of the major strengths was the tunnel networks that were there.
Right.
But very interestingly, just an hour before the ceasefire actually began on Friday, we had bombardment of the tunnels underneath the Al-Shifa hospital.
Yes.
This was the last statement that I received from the IDF. So clearly, they've gone after the commanders. They've also killed one of the commanders of the naval forces of Hamas just early
In
morning
Khan Yunis,
on
yes.
Friday. So clearly, Hamas is not in a position of strength that it was perhaps 45 days ago.
Right.
It was a surprise attack, no doubt, and perhaps for decades it would be remembered. The kind of attack it happened perhaps will bring a paradigm shift the way
Right.
terrorism is seen globally.
Right.
But in this particular case, I think the war will continue for a few more weeks until Gaza is completely sanitized. And
Right.
then will be the tricky part.
Right.
Once tunnels are sanitized, once the Hamas terrorists are killed, what happens to first the governance structure in
Yes.
Gaza, who takes over? And secondly, what will Israel do with the growing radicalization, not just
Right.
in Gaza, but across Palestine
Yeah.
and in
On
the
the
Arab
West
world,
Bank and in
which
the
will
other-
be an
absolutely.
emerging threat.
News9 Plus. Download now.